Good afternoon. Welcome to Consular Conversations Live. My name is Sean McKeating, and I serve as the Acting Deputy Consular Chief here at the U.S. Embassy in Kingston, Jamaica. Today's session will be a little bit different from our usual format. We know that there are a lot of questions about traveling to the United States. In fact, in my work, I see them almost every day, from understanding your visa to knowing what you can and cannot do once you arrive. So we are dedicating this conversation to answering your questions directly. Our goal is simple: provide clear information, help you prepare with confidence, and most importantly, travel responsibly. All visa decisions made at the U.S. Embassy are national security decisions. This is something that has been a point of emphasis more here recently, but we still understand, as the consular section here in Embassy Kingston, that mutual tourism between our countries and then temporary workers that go from Jamaica to the United States to not only work in Jamaica, but send home that income to the island and bring home the training that they receive. These things are important and vital to both our countries' economies. We don't want a qualified and good faith traveler to get caught out or suffer any negative consequences that they otherwise should have no risk of ever confronting. So I have 5 points to share with you about how you can travel responsibly. And it begins at the embassy. The first point is you must be completely truthful in your application, in your answers to your interview questions and your documents. This is vital. There are people that maybe work through Insta that have travel agents, and I'll put that between little comment marks there. They are travel agents that try to convince you that if you pay them, they will give you the right story, produce a fake document that will support that story, and if you can just present that story to the U.S. Embassy, you will get through. This is not true. I have the pleasure of supervising a group of experienced professionals in our fraud prevention unit, and that unit exists to find and to interdict travelers who tell us things that are not true. Don't work with those agents. Don't, especially on the H-2 temporary work visa side, work with a recruiter that is not registered with MLSS, and don't try to lie to us. We have vast resources to try to detect these things, and if we find that that has happened, it will be something that stops you from ever going to the United States for the rest of your life. Second, when you do get to the United States, when you've gotten that visa and you've landed in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, or any of our wonderful cities in the US, it is important to know your admit until date and not to overstay your visa. Now, things can happen. You can go for what was supposed to be a 2-week trip to visit a relative in the United States, and then they get sick and you have to extend your stay. This is fine as long as you file for an extension with USCIS before your admit until date is reached. It used to be in the old days when you landed at the airport, there would be a stamp placed in your passport and a date written inside that little stamp, and it would tell you when you needed to leave the US. That doesn't happen anymore. These things are handled electronically. The name for how long you can stay, or the form that is your admit until date, is called the I-94, and you can get it electronically. They will tell you when you get to the CBP person at the port of entry will say, you are admitted until this time. But because it's no longer in your passport, if you ever get confused or forget what that date is, all you have to do is go to the CBP website at cbp.dhs.gov and search out your individual I-94. It's really important that you don't overstay, because if you do, when you come back to us, we'll know, and then it will be very difficult to get the next visa, or the visa that you have now is likely to be revoked. Third, follow US law. Of course, we all know that we need to follow the criminal laws of the places that we're visiting. It's not okay to commit a crime, but it also is very important not to work illegally on a tourist visa. These activities can lead to lifelong bans, and I will say in my experience, the vast majority of people who get turned around when they go back to the United States are people that we already know worked illegally the last time they were in the United States. Please don't do that. It will lead to a lifelong ban. Fourth, and this has been a recent point of emphasis that has always been in the law, but it's gotten more attention lately, and that is the idea of being a public charge, going to the United States and having something happen where the taxpayer in the United States has to pay for your care in a hospital or meet other expenses of yours. The first of these is birth tourism is under strict scrutiny. What is birth tourism? Not if you go to the United States while pregnant and then an accident happens or an unexpected medical event occurs and you ended up having to have your child in the United States, but rather if you go to the United States late in your term of pregnancy with the intent of having a child while in the United States, that is forbidden under our laws. So do not travel with the intent of having a child while in the United States. Secondly, have a plan to meet any unexpected expenses. Most especially remember that healthcare in the United States is not free. There is no national health service the way there is here in Jamaica. And national health in Jamaica cannot be used in the United States, just like Medicare and Medicaid in the United States is not valid for healthcare in Jamaica. Not only is it not free, it is very expensive. Having purchased healthcare myself here on the island compared to my experiences in the United States, it is a shocking amount of money to receive care in a hospital, and much, much more than you would ever expect because those expenses are very high. Travelers' health insurance is therefore strongly recommended. Now, we tell this to U.S. travelers coming to Jamaica to visit Grill or Ochi. We tell them that travelers' health insurance is strongly recommended because their insurance doesn't work down here. And if they need to be evacuated on an aircraft, that's tens of thousands of dollars that they would be expected to pay. So do yourself a favor and make sure that you have travelers' health insurance when you go to the United States to meet those kinds of expenses. Now, there is a small group of travelers that go to the United States for the purpose of medical treatment. This is perfectly appropriate as long as we have the documentation to show who it is that is providing the treatment. They're guaranteed that they're going to not only cover the costs of treatment, but the expenses of the patient. This is fine, but don't leave it there, because usually when you travel overseas for treatment, you bring someone with you, a spouse, a significant other, somebody. We need to, and we'll probably ask you if you are going on such travel, to explain how you're going to meet the living expenses of the companions as well. So, if you use these tips and make sure that you follow this advice, you will be a responsible traveler. And that will help us make sure that your valid visa stays valid and that your ability to travel back and forth from the United States stays current, which is what we all want. Thank you for joining us. Remember, understanding your visa and using it properly protects your future travel opportunities and keeps the process fair for everyone. Before your next trip, make sure you are informed, prepared, and ready to travel responsibly. Once again, I'm Sean. We look forward to seeing you next time on Consular Conversations Live.